Hello, hello, mi gente. Welcome to Entre Acts, your favorite podcast, ya tu sabe. I'm Linedy Genao, and this is the show where we talk about the in-between as artists and what that space means to us. Because there comes a lot of shame and guilt and embarrassment during this space, but this space is where the growth happens, and a lot of the time, where the most beautiful things happen that inform your artistry and your humanity. And I'm so excited to introduce this week's guest. Our guest today is a creative architect who is quite literally changing the face of Broadway, film, and TV as a casting director. Founder of X Casting, he brings a deep-rooted sense of purpose and identity to his work, dedicated to seeing the people traditional systems often overlook. A proud son of Mexican immigrants, his visionary work is behind the history-making smash Cats the Jellicle Ball and the heart-filled Broadway debut of Real Women Have Curves. In an industry where artists often feel stuck in the intermission, he's far more than a gatekeeper. He's a bridge builder for global majority and queer stories. He sits at the intersection of the yes and the no. And today, he's here to talk about what it takes to navigate the messy middle of this industry. Mi gente, please welcome the incredible Victor Vazquez.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I have to tell the story, if I may, of how we met.
Yeah, go for it.
So this is circa 2015, 16 maybe?
I think we're on set 17.
17. Okay, 17. Yeah, I wasn't On Your Feet.
Almost 10 years ago.
Almost. Ay, Dios mío.
Yeah.
Time. What is time? Almost 10 years ago, I auditioned for Arena Stage.
Yeah.
I think it was The Pajama Game.
That's right. For the lead, Babe.
For the lead, Babe.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is this musical? I've never heard of this before. And I started deep diving. I went to the audition and immediately just felt a sense of connection with you. Like, you know, when you walk into a room, especially when you walk into a room of your people, like to see that you were representing, Latinos in there. And I didn't get the part, but how many times can you say that a casting director emailed you after an audition, right? After you didn't get it. So I get an email from Victor basically saying like, yes, it didn't go your way, but you were wonderful. Like, thank you so much for all that you brought. And also connecting me to someone named Carlos Hernandez, who would later become, actually literally that same year, 2017, would become my one and only manager till this day. Shout out Carlos Hernandez, hey, pion, 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 Ikigai management, producer of Entre Acts. And Victor was like, I know somebody that I think you should meet with, that would be in your corner, that would help you, that would amplify you. I need you guys to talk. And I'll never forget, I went into the alleyway of the Lion King because the Marquee and the Minskoff are across the street from each other. And that's where I had my FaceTime with Carlos. And we were just talking about you. And I was like, yeah, Victor, I met him at this audition and I didn't get it, but he was so kind enough to email me. And so I have you to thank, not only, number one, that was one of my first auditions after On Your Feet, for making me feel seen and valued, even though I didn't get it. Because that's also important. Just because you didn't get it doesn't mean that it's done. It's the end of it. And also for helping change my career with my representation and, and who's become a friend and like family.
Right.
So thank you so much for that.
Of course. I mean, it's like, when people come into the room, you're right. It's like not this. I tell people like we have such a construct of what success means, right? Like we've been taught since we were kids that like success is pass fail, right? That this like is binary, whether like, and you got to fall into one of those categories. And I think for me, like auditions aren't a part of that binary. It's not a pass-fail system. At least it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like, no, this is a moment for us to get to know each other, right? Because I have such an honor. Like, to me, actors hold so much dignity. And I mean that, like, truly, because it's such an incredibly difficult profession.
Mm-hmm.
I'll get into how difficult it is later, because I have a story about that. But, like, it's so difficult, right? And so, like, I honor and I respect that. And it's like, sometimes the project is just not your project. Or sometimes the role is just not your role. But guess what? Like, we're going to be in the same industry, walking side by side for a lifetime. Like, shouldn't we be good neighbors? Shouldn't we be good, like, village people to one another? Like, we may not, like, have something to trade right now, but eventually we might, right? And so, and the best thing is that trade could be an ongoing collaboration, a friendship, a relationship like that's professional and about, like, making sure that we each succeed, So
I love that.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
what a small world. Like, who would have thought 10 years later, you know, I have you to thank for so much too, and my confidence and in auditions, you know, just you championing me and taking the time to come out of the room. You know, again, as actors, we're terrified. At least I am when I walk into a room, especially when you get to finals. It's like there's more people in the room, more cameras, more stress, more pressure. But to have somebody that will come out of the room and go out of their way first, you know, during their stressful and long day too, I'm sure, to ease you and just give you that little boost of confidence means everything. So thank
Yeah,
you so
of
much.
course.
So before we get started, this show is like our favorite sandwichito, which I'm going to ask you later what your favorite sandwich is. We like to start with something fun. Then, you know, we get into the messy middle and like the heartfelt stuff in the middle, and then some fun in the end. So we're going to play a game of dominoes.
Okay.
Not really dominoes, pero ya tú sabes. You're going to pick a domino, sum up that number, and that'll pertain to an icebreaker question.
Great.
Are you ready?
Let's go.
Nos fuimos.
6.
6. Tacos al pastor or carne asada?
Okay, so I used to be carne asada, but because of my partner, like it's al pastor. It's just like,
Really?
you know, like he's just he goes for all the non-traditional stuff. So I feel like al pastor is it.
I
Yeah.
love that. I love that. Okay, next.
Oh.
Damn, now I'm like, I that's probably what I'm gonna get after
Ooh,
this.
1.
1. Okay. You're in a business meeting in Midtown and they bring out mild salsa that tastes like ketchup. Do you politely eat it to close the deal, or do you
No.
call it out for the sake of your ancestors?
No, I don't eat it. I wouldn't.
That's a
No.
real one right there.
I don't know if I call it out because that might be somebody else's sauce, but
Oh,
it's
yeah,
not
you're right.
mine.
Okay, how spicy do you go?
I am now like on a mission to build up my palate. So like
love
I'm
that.
introducing chiles, jalapenos, everything to like my breakfasts, my lunches, sometimes just like literally on top of it. So like it's just really healthy for you.
It is. I
They're
should
really
get.
good for you.
Unfortunately, in the Latin Caribbean culture, we don't use a lot of spice. So
Oh,
I wasn't raised having a lot of spicy food.
yeah.
Have you been to Cuerno?
No.
We gotta go to Cuerno. Carlos took me. It's this incredible Mexican restaurant that is from northern Mexico, right?
Uh-huh.
That specializes in that food. And there were 5 salsas, and so it went from least spicy to most spicy.
Uh-huh.
I only made it to number 3.
Wow.
But I'm proud of myself. 3 out of 5.
Good for
And
you.
the third one was my favorite because
Right.
it was like a kind of like a creamier one, like a queso kind of situation.
Yeah, no, not about it. I'm like I'm even now putting like cayenne in my water.
That's
when I
actually
drink
really
it.
good for you.
Yeah.
Okay, I might have to do that, coño.
So
Okay.
thanks.
Okay, next.
Okay, great. 5.
5. Would you rather cast a revival or a new musical?
Oh, such a great question. Both?
That's okay.
Give me both. No, they each have like their own special chemistry, you know? Like a new work is so exciting because it's just so like you're figuring out this thing into existence. But a revival, I think I might say a revival
Yeah.
because it's like you're taking something that people already know and you're looking to crack it open. You know, and I really love that. Like just from my background and particularly like my obsession with text, like I just love the idea of like being like, okay, what happens when we look at this differently? So I would say revival.
I love that. And I can't
Yeah.
wait to get into Cats the Jellicle Ball, the
Yeah.
revival of the world. Not even the season, the world. Okay, last one.
I'll go for a far one.
Okay.
This one. Add that up for me. 7?
7. Okay. Do Mexicans really have beef with Salvies?
Oh my
Our
God.
producer Carlos made
Who
me ask
wrote
that.
that?
Our producer Carlos, blame him. He made me ask that.
First of all, so like that's really interesting, right? Because like I grew up around so many Latinos, like just growing up in LA. I'm from Los Angeles. I went to school with just like it was all like black and brown, right? Just like Mexican and black. And then like we also had like Vietnamese and Filipinos, right? And so my world was just like completely like that's all I knew, right? And my partner, who's Guatemalan as well, like he's just like I don't say as well, meaning like any of us are Guatemalan, but I mean like he's Central American, and he's always like, you got to get that Mexican supremacy out of you. Like South America is several countries, and I'm not that I'm like Mexican supremacist, but not that those two words have ever gone together, but it's like just making me mindful of like you're right, like there's so many different countries in Latin America, And just because Mexico is one of the biggest, right, it doesn't mean it's the only one. And that's the thing,
Listen,
right? There's like what, like 33 nations in
I know.
South,
I need to be
like
aware of
South
that as well.
America. Like when we're talking about like what Latinidad looks like,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just a homogenous thing, right? It's like you said, you grew up without eating like spices as
Mm-hmm.
much, right? But like in our table, it's just like it's always in the center of the table, right? So yeah, I think that that's really the beautiful thing of it. It's like I'm not gonna pick one and say one is more than the other. It's just
He
we
just made me
all
ask. He
we
made me
all
ask.
belong
We all
together.
belong together. Carlos.
Carlos is Salvi.
Salvi.
Yeah.
And Carlos wanted me to ask that. I just
And
need
for
to
the
put that on the
listeners,
record.
we
for
both
them.
share a manager, so yeah.
Yes, Carlos is both of our managers. So that was an inside joke that we've shared with y'all. Okay. Bueno, Victor, as you know, this is called Entre Acts, right? In between. And so here we talk about what the in between means for us as artists, as human beings, because like I said, unfortunately, the in between when people are asking, "What are you doing now?" "Oh, you're not in a show." "Oh,"
Right.
and there comes all that other stuff.
Stigma.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
stigma. And
Yeah.
I wanted to create a space where we talk about that because
Beautiful.
again, there's so much that comes from that, so much
Right.
good.
Yes.
And I found myself in a big intermission and a big in between after Bad Cinderella.
Mhm.
Again, reaching the apex of my career and then
Right.
it being gone in a split second
Right.
and not knowing what's next for myself, let alone being able to answer that for other people. And so I wanted to ask you as an artist, as a human, what does the in-between space mean to you?
Well, I think just like to name what you experienced, right? And at least from my vantage point, right? Like I think that as artists, like when you reach those apex points, right? Like your career just gets more specific.
Mm.
And I feel like, right, with more specificity, then it's about the next more specific opportunity finding you. And and because I think it's like you show up to the table and you're just like, okay, well, let's see what opportunities show up. And when you're emerging, when you're at the beginning of your career, you're just like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this, let's do it
Mhm.
all, right? But I think as you continue to do that, you're becoming more curatorial about your career. You're becoming more intentional. And so I think that the spaces actually can get longer in between,
Yeah.
right? And so then as artists, it's our responsibility to learn how to take better care of ourselves. Because I think that we don't learn that those moments, those spaces are actually the most essential. Like, and I wish we did. I
Me
wish we were
too.
taught that, like, okay, in your career as creatives, you're gonna have these moments where you're just like blazing energy, right? Just like the world is coming at you and you're just like surrounded by this vortex
Mhm.
of energy. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And you don't know how long it's gonna be till the next vortex finds you, right? And those moments are scary because you're just like, well, if am I still an artist?
Mm.
Right? Like, who am I when I'm not
Mhm.
in that vortex? And I think that that's actually the most beautiful question. When I was in undergrad, I studied directing and writing.
I
That
didn't
was
know
my
that.
that was my emphasis. And so even as a casting director now, like I decided after I finished my directing degree that I didn't want to be a director. Like immediately as soon as I graduated.
Wow.
But it's helped me so much to be a successful casting director and to be able to support directors because I'm like I know that brain and I also honor it, right?
Mhm.
And also I know how to look at actors, I know how to talk to actors, I know how to give them a pivot or an adjustment. I know how to have that relationship. But when I was in school, I took this class called The Business of Show Business. And our professor Don Hill was like, okay, everybody's going to have a moment where you go on stage and you proclaim the thing that's going to be the successful vision in your life, right? So like a lot of people went up and they accepted imaginary Tonys or
Mhm.
Oscars or Emmys, etc., right? And then it was my turn and I was terrified because I was like, none of those things are true to me. Like I'm not an actor. I don't necessarily view those things as success to me. So I went up truly at a blank. I was on stage, right, in front of all these, students, and I just said, "I'm in my kitchen," and I was like, "I'm in my kitchen, and my son is on the counter, or my kid's on the counter, and I am looking around, and I'm about to host my community.
Ugh, that's gonna make me cry. Oh my god.
And I've designed every aspect of this kitchen. Like, I've designed with no budget every aspect of this kitchen.
Wow.
And I was like, that to me is my success.
Oh my
And
god.
to this day, like, well, you know, like, I don't even know how many years later, right? Like, that's still my North Star. You know, it's like when I'm not working on a project, it's very similar, right? It's like casting directors, like, my career is just getting more specific and more specific and more specific, right? I'm not like working on like commercials and doing tours and this and that because that's not what I do, right? Like, I work in TV, film, and theater at the like Broadway, off Broadway level. But even the kinds of collaborators that come to me are very specific, right? And so it's not like I'm just like taking every project that comes at the table or that I'm being offered like all these projects. So there is time in between. And like for me, that's been the greatest question. It's been like, what do I want to do? What do I want to learn? You know, like I started taking construction classes
Oh my gosh.
just to be like, because I want to learn how to do that just for
Mhm.
myself. Like if I buy a house, I want to know how to renovate it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a project I like. And so I think as artists, like we got to like tap in and be like, okay, if I remove all these stigmas, all this fear, you know, at heart, what is that inner person, the inner child? What do I still want to learn? What do I still want to do to nourish until the next thing comes, you know?
I love that. I love that. That's so real. And and also, like you were saying, filling your cup with things that have nothing to do, like construction. That's a different art form. You know, my husband is he's a stagehand. Like he builds sets and all that stuff. So construction is another form of artistry that
Yeah.
he's into
Yeah.
and does. And I don't know. And that just, I love that
Yeah.
that you've chosen to learn
It
that.
also just reminds us of like, we're people, right?
Yeah.
We're like civilians, we're pedestrians. Like,
Literally.
like, you know, there's all these like moments that are built into our industry of like shiny things.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also like we are people
Yeah.
and we get to connect with the world and we got to be among the people. Like, and
Wow.
so how do you get back into what does that mean to you, you know?
Yeah.
So
No, absolutely. So as a casting director, you're literally the gatekeeper of the intermission. You're the one who decides most times when an artist's pause ends and their next chapter begins. We usually remember the no's. Do you remember the first yes where you got to call someone and tell them, yes, your dream is coming true. Yes, you got this.
I love that because at the beginning of my career, I was able to do that a lot more personally.
Oh.
Right. And now my relationship is a lot to agents and
Mm-hmm.
managers. Right. And so I get to do that. But it's also very cool how excited they get. Right. Because then they get to relay that message to their client who they have very personal relationships. Right. And so it's really beautiful to hear the excitement across the phone. You know, even when an agent or a manager is like, I can't wait to deliver this news. Right.
Oh.
So, of course, you know, it's my favorite part because a job can change someone's life. We think about, again, what we do with such creative, you know, like enterprise, right? But at the end of the day, it's also a job with health insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also resources in your pocket for you to make decisions about you, your life, your family. And to me, that's the most exciting part.
Yeah.
It's like giving people jobs so they can be like, you're good, man. Like you're good. I hope you have this job for a year. I hope that puts some money in your pocket to do whatever you need to do to get to the next moment, right? So sure, there's a creative aspect of it, like, yay, I get to be a lead, right? Or whatever, or a supporting role, etc. Or I finally get to work with this director or this studio or this, you know,
Theater. Yeah.
whatever. At the same time, it's to like, yeah, I get to, you know, pay off my credit cards and I get
That's so
to,
real.
you know, have health insurance for another year and I get
Mhm.
to plan a family, you know? So that to me is like, yeah, like delivering news like that is always great because it's like, it's a job offer, you know?
I love that. I love that. So, as actors, we're taught to sometimes hide gaps in our resumes. I mean, I was never taught that, but like I know that that's a thing, right? As a casting director, do you actually value the creative detours, the survival jobs, the travel, the life lived more than the back-to-back booking streak?
I was going to interrupt you, but I wanted to like,
Oh
not
no,
do that.
please.
But who taught you that?
Nobody taught me that. I just hear that. I come from the corporate world too. I worked in banking. I went to school for
Mhm.
business, and that too. It's like if there's a gap in your resume, it's like, oh, what were you doing in this time? So I figured Again, I haven't been taught that here in this industry, but I figure, is that the same here?
No, I don't think so. I mean, it shouldn't be, right? And again, I don't speak for every casting director. We're all different, but I think that actually gaps in your resume, again, they just lead. It's like, this is gonna be sound so woo woo, but it's like when you look at a poem, right? The spaces in between are the most important.
Yes.
Like truly, they are. It's the sort of silence and the white space and the line breaks in between
They're
that.
intentional.
Yeah. And so to me, it's like that's a resume,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like, and it doesn't, like, I think people, like, I just, oh God, it's just like I just such an issue with like academic teaching of our industry because I don't know, and I don't necessarily, I'm very skeptical about how things are being taught to young performers and artists in today's world. And it's stuff like that. When I hear it, I'm like, I'm always skeptical. I'm like, who taught you that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I don't necessarily believe that, right? And I don't want you to believe that because the way it works on our end, it's like we sometimes get a resume with 1 credit, and you're still able to book a series regular off that 1 credit. Like people are like,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta add my school and I gotta do this and I gotta, like, sure. Like if you're starting, sure. But again, like I do see that happening where it's like, an agency has a resume for the client and it's literally 1 credit at the top. No special skills, no schooling
Mm-hmm.
listed. I mean, that very well could be part of the story, part of the blank space that we're not seeing. But we're imagining if you got that 1 credit somehow, then there's something there,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I don't know. I think people should be skeptical of stuff like that and remember that it's like those spaces are prime. They can tell us a lot too, you know?
Absolutely. And that makes me think back to my Broadway debut. My resume, when I went to the open call of On Your Feet, I left my banking job. I took the day off. And my resume had my theater shows from high school.
Mm-hmm.
West Side Story, Damn Yankees. I was assistant director in To Kill a Mockingbird. Oh my gosh, I had to succeed in business without really trying, and my special skills, bilingual, can dance. Like it was mortifying.
Mm.
And my headshot, I took on my iPhone 4, a selfie, printed it at Walgreens on glossy paper, senore,
Oh no,
on
not
glossy
glossy paper.
and I made my Broadway debut with that, and that was
Right.
enough.
Right, of course. Because again, like, sure, like attention should be paid to the details, and I think it really communicates a lot about how elevated you're approaching your career when your materials really feel elevated, right? But I think particularly, on our end, we see that, and sure, like it'll make it easier for us to interpret what we may potentially meet in front of us, right? But what matters the most is who walks in,
Yeah.
and the kind of skill, talent, belief, magic, that walks in that day too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. And it creates conversation. Like you want to ask, "Oh, what's this? What's this?" And
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. Maybe I don't recommend everybody printing on Walgreens glossy paper, but
It was 2014,
let's
senor.
not make that a
It was
trend
12
again.
years ago. Senor, it was 12 years ago. 12 years ago. Bet on yourself.
Yeah.
Bet on it. Bet on it. Do you know High School Musical too? Okay.
No.
Okay. How does your casting methodology change from casting an Apple TV show to a film to a Broadway show?
They're also different. I mean, it's like time is I think the
Really?
biggest factor because like when you're working on a development of like a Broadway show, right? It takes years,
See.
It takes 2, 3, 4, 5+ years. Like, and so there's a lot of time in between steps, right? Where like things go quiet and you don't know what's happening, but producers are like working their magic and trying to get the things, In the TV world, in film world, it's like you get the job and then you have a certain amount of weeks and you got to
Wow.
execute the job within a certain amount of weeks. So if
I
you're
didn't know
working on
that.
a TV show, you're delivering based on, 12+ weeks, right? Like you can be working from 3 to 6 months, but then you're casting, anywhere from, all the leads to the entire, slate of actors,
Wow.
like 180, right, for a season. So, um, or a film where like, you know, you have 6 to 10 weeks to cast all the actors in a feature.
That's it. El
So
diablo.
we're
I didn't
working
know that.
fast, right? So that's very like, that's why like, you know, I think there's a bit of a difference in like how it applies to actors, because like in TV film world, we're just moving faster.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Wow. I
no,
didn't know that. That blows my mind.
no.
As a Latino casting director, what is the one Latino trope in scripts that you're officially deading and refusing to cast anymore?
I think it's just like Latino characters are so like I feel like when I read something and it's like says it's a Latino character, there's always a bit of suspicion, right? Because I'm like, okay, what's going on here? Like,
Mm-hmm.
particularly like if it's not written or being created by somebody within, you know, who shares that identity.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's like, okay, are they being used in a way as a device somehow, right? Or is it just that we want to give the opportunity to a Latino, but the story maybe doesn't revolve around that identity, right? So it's just letting them play and
Mm-hmm.
imagine and being an astronaut or being in sci-fi or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think for me, it's not that I like reject or want something dead in the water. It's more so that I'm just like, I think we should all be a little bit more skeptical and suspicious of like what we're doing with certain roles,
Yeah.
right? And just like approach them again with a lot of dignity, and because you want an actor to then step in and be like, oh, I know what to do with this meaty material, or I get to play in this playground. And if it's just a trope, you know, then it's like, oh, that's in the 80s. So
Yeah.
like, what are you still doing here? No,
That's so real. That's so
no.
real. Now, you know what I'm gonna talk about. Hence this Dique leopard print dress that I got. Cats the Jellicle Ball, señores. If you haven't seen Cats the Jellicle Ball, I need to see it on Broadway. I saw it off Broadway downtown. Incredible. Walk us through the casting process for that, because that is so specific, so niche. Did it change from Pack to Broadway? Like how? Yeah, walk us through that.
So I remember when I first got the offer, Mei Ying Wang, who was a producer at PAC, called me, and I was in a taxi at night, and I remember hearing the pitch, and she was like, "Hey, so project Cats, but ballroom." And I was like, "What?" Like just like what? And she goes, "I know. Let me send you a deck. Look at it." And it really took me a while to like wrap my head around it, right? But then like when I started putting the pieces together, so like one of the co-directors is Bill Rausch. And I know Bill Rausch from his methodology. Like when Bill was at Harvard, a student at Harvard undergrad, and he graduated, he drove a blue van, I believe, across the country.
Wow.
And here's this young gay man, right, driving a blue van across the United States, stopping like with friends, right, who wanted to make theater with communities. And they would stop at like certain spots around the country, and they would like adapt like text, right, like Shakespeare or whatever, and like integrate what the communities were, their stories into the
Wow.
text, right? And then use them as actors, right? And so there was this methodology that's being built, and it's now Cornerstone Theater Company that's based in Los Angeles. And Bill Rausch was one of the, you know, he was a founding artistic director of that. And so having studied his actual methodology since I was, you know, beginning in theater in undergrad, um, was like getting to work with him was one of those things where I was like, oh, I understand who you are as an artist and what your initial inspiring question of this theater making is. And I'm excited about that. Right. And so I knew instantly, I was like, okay, well, then I want to infuse that methodology into the way we work. Right. So it was like, um, we're going to get to work with a community that's outside the traditional norms of theater making,
Yeah.
and that's ballroom. And how do we build relationship? How do we invite? Like all those things have specific methods where they're not like extraction or taking advantage or like just coming in and ruining relationship, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so easy to mess up, right? And I just was like approaching it right with my co-casting director Sujata. Like I was I I was just like, I really want to approach this with the invitation. And so when we first started, our first open call was exclusively only to ballroom folks. It
Wow.
was the first audition we ever had, and we told them, you come first. Like, we see you first before we see anybody else. We get to see you first. So we had a huge open day call. We saw hundreds of them just through dancing. And then we told them all, okay, we're gonna create this portal where you get to submit, and we're gonna leave it open for a year. And so
Wow.
we had an online portal where they could continue to submit, right? Because sometimes their vocals might get better, right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes, like what we saw might not be the best. And so maybe they just got to take it home and work on it a bit
I
more.
love that so
And
much.
so then they also get to spread the word and tell their friends, right? And somebody might not hear about it in that week,
Mm-hmm.
but then they might hear about it several months later, and then it's still not too late because we knew that this process would be long. So we decided to leave that portal open for a whole year. And we got a lot of submissions, and we would just continuously review them. And that's how we kept track of a lot of people. So
I love that so much because as an artist, period, at least as an actor, you walk into the audition, you might blow it, and you don't forget about that for months.
but
But to have the opportunity to be given the opportunity to try again is incredible. And for a year, Dios mío.
well, and it's also like we're inviting folks who aren't used to that,
Yeah.
right? Who aren't used to that, like that practice necessarily. And it can be daunting. It can be scary to walk into a room and there's like literally 14 people behind tables.
Mhm.
Like our rooms in Broadway are crazy, right? Like you walk in and you just like see like 4 to 5 tables.
Yeah.
And that's so intimidating, right? But like even in our process through several rounds, right? Where we're seeing theater folks and ballroom folks, etc. We're just like, come in and let's play. Let's play at the piano. Let's try to figure this out. This is very complicated work. Andrew Lloyd Webber is not easy,
No.
right? Even for a trained professional, it can be very like, there's so many like just meticulous,
Yeah.
right? Um, um, things to like hit, right? And so it's like, okay, how can we just like work at the piano a bit and just get to know your voice?
Oh
So
my
we did that a
gosh.
lot. Yeah.
That's incredible. That's incredible. Okay. Last question before we get back into the sandwichito.
Mhm.
You're bi-coastal. Does the messy middle feel different in the sunshine of LA versus the grit of New York? Which city is kinder to an artist who's currently in between?
Yeah. So I was full-time in New York or in the East Coast for about 7 years.
Was that during the arena stage days?
Yeah, so I was
oh,
first
wow.
in DC. I was, for people listening, I was a casting director at the in-house casting director at Arena Stage for about 2 years in DC. Actually, I want to talk about that a little bit, if that's
Yeah.
okay. Because I think that my ethos really solidified as a casting director at Arena Stage, and I'm very, very, very proud of that chapter. Because I became the in-house casting director at Arena Stage in March of 2017, which was 2 months into Trump's first administration. And
Oh.
Arena Stage is the like premier, theater of DC, blocks away from the White House, right? And we develop a lot of new work there. 10 shows per season and just
Wow.
dozens of new play musical developments happening. And so I got to oversee the casting of about 180 roles per year. And that's really where I like solidified my practice as a casting director. But more importantly, my ethos, because I I've always had like this sense of like representation matters, right?
Mhm.
Like I think as like simple as that statement feels to say, it's way more complex.
Same.
And for me, what it meant at that time was I know that our audiences, and in DC at least at that moment, included Supreme Court justices, Congress members, Senate members, politicians, lobbyists. And I knew that because I would meet them,
Mhm.
right? They would come to our opening nights. They would be in the audiences. They are the ones that supported the arts and the
Mhm.
theater and etc. And I like have this story just really quickly about like Supreme Court Justice RBG, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She wrote, I have a letter from RBG framed.
Oh my God.
And she wrote it to my boss, Molly Smith, who's artistic director at Arena Stage. And she said, Molly, if you can please pass this on to your casting director. So one day I show up to work. I'm sitting at my desk, and there's a letter from this on Supreme Court Justice letterhead on my desk. And I open it, and I'm reading it, and then I get down to the name, and I gasp because she signed it.
Oh my God.
And it said, dear, casting director, enclosed is a headshot and resume.
I'm
Wait,
screaming.
is a headshot and resume of my granddaughter's husband. I'm not going to say his name, but he's an actor. And she said, she describes him, like his qualities as an actor. And she says, as you know, being an actor in the theater is an incredibly difficult and challenging profession to enter. And so I would appreciate your review of his materials. And I have that framed because to me, I'm like, wow, it's like there are only so few Supreme Court justices in our, that we have in
Yeah.
our country, literally, it's such a rare job to obtain. And that person sees how incredibly difficult it is for an actor to be an actor. So much so that she even wrote a letter and signed it. And so to me, like, I knew those people were in the sphere, right? I met RBG. I shook her hand. She complimented me on the casting of an August Wilson play I cast. And to me, what happened during those years, during the first administration, was there was this incredible, like, energetic mission of I want to make sure that these political movers, right, in charge of our government are seeing the citizenry of this country reflected on these stages. And I've carried that mission through to my work today. Like we talked about the Jellicle ball, and it's like you see it and there's a very clear intention about who you're seeing on stage. Like all that is very meticulously thought out through and fought for, and it comes from that ethos of wanting people to experience the citizenry of this country, not just in a homogenous way, not just in a traditional way, but like these are people in our communities too. And I want you to see them, right? Because we are so moved when we see stories. We're obsessed with story. It's got such power in our culture. And I think the work that we do as casting directors, there's a huge responsibility. I carry and I hold that responsibility. I call it like, we're really curating culture and politics, right? Because who we see matters. That shot earlier on in Obama's administration where there's a little black boy touching Obama's hair. It's such a striking image because in a way it's saying, I see you and you're like me. And look at where you are.
That can be me.
That can be me too. And I think that when we see that, whether you want to be an actor or not, there's power in like seeing a body that is like yours, seeing an identity that you share, right? Because that can fuel a lifetime.
Absolutely. I'm still dead at that. The fact that she not only shot her shot, but
Right.
also saw your value. When we're watching a show in the audience, we're seeing the glitz, the glam, lights, camera, action, but you often forget who's behind that, who's the reason that you're seeing these actors. And so the fact that she knew your value and knew that you were the person that casted this show and created this, for her to say, ask that of you for her family is just.
And I cast him in something.
No, you did it. Oh my God. You got to tell me later. You have to tell me later. Iconic. Oh my gosh. Bueno, llegamos al sound.
So
at the end of the
if you
sandwichito.
have an RBG, I mean, if you have a Supreme Court grandma, it doesn't.
Shoot your shot. Victor Vazquez, ex casting.
Doesn't hurt to have them write a letter.
Make sure it's on letterhead from the Supreme Court,
Yes.
though.
Yes.
So now we're going to play this game. Again, we try to keep it PG-13 here. Instead of marry, kill, it's bed, wed, dead. Bed, wed, dead. What are you doing in bed,
got
wed,
it.
dead? Okay. So first is the subway, the LA 405 freeway, or a Zoom waiting room.
Oh my God. Dead, the Zoom waiting room.
Correct.
Bed, wed. I would wed. Was the subway and what was the other one?
And the 405.
Oh God, no.
I know.
I don't want any of them.
I know.
Sorry.
But you have to.
No.
Okay, that's okay. No, that's okay. You make the rules. Está bien, está bien.
Dead. Are you kidding?
Dead.
No. I mean, I would probably just like wed the subway.
Yeah.
Because it's no. Actually, no. I regret it.
No,
I would
that's
divorce
okay.
immediately.
That's fine. Okay. Prepared professional, scrappy genius, social media star.
Let me look at them again.
Prepared professional, scrappy genius, social media star.
I would dead the prepared professional.
Mm.
I don't know. It's just I think there's something about the professional there that feels a little like I'm not sure I like that rigidity. Scrappy genius I would wed, and I would bet this. It sounds weird to say that, but sure.
Sure, why
Yeah.
not?
Like
Okay.
as in like make sure that they're like tucked in.
Yes.
Yes.
Let's make
And
sure
like
we have it right.
like parachute comforter, like the brand, you know.
Wow.
This is not an endorsement of parachute.
not an endorsement, but
I'm just
parachute.
saying.
If you want to come on Entre Acts, please, the invitation is open.
It's just nice.
Vogue cat, belter cat, character cat.
All three win.
Okay.
Yeah. I cannot.
You can't
I
pick.
can't dead any
That's
of
okay.
those. I love all those three.
Last one. Horchata, Jamaica,
That one's easy.
Mexican Coke.
Dead horchata just because I'm lactose intolerant. I'm sorry. I know.
I am.
I
don't
would
care.
wed and bed Jamaica in a moment. And Mexican Coke, I would also just I would bed that. Yeah. Yeah.
That is that's real. The last segment is Chisme Hot Takes.
Okay, good.
Okay. What's
I
one
also
piece?
realized I didn't really answer your LA question about LA, New York, which one's better, but it's okay.
Oh, the for the messy middle?
I completely
No, it's okay.
overlooked it.
What is it? LA or New York?
I think both. I recommend people just explore both
Really?
for different reasons. Yes. I think LA is really great to like slow your life down and just like go enjoy
Mm-hmm.
like tapping into yourself. New York feels like very much like a hustle. And I
Wow.
love being able to tap into
Both.
because they're very different for my immune system and my energetic system and my like nervous system. I have ADHD for everybody listening. I don't know if you've noticed, but I have this little blue rock here.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, I always hold it when I'm like when I'm working or when I'm like talking to people because it's like a comfort thing. So like even in auditions, I don't know if you have anybody overlooks, I'm usually holding it because
I never noticed.
it's like an anchor. So like in New York City, it's just so overstimulating.
Same.
Everything is so overstimulating. It's just it doesn't give my nervous system a break at all.
Mm-hmm.
And it can be so exhausting in a good way, but it's so hard to do that as a life.
Yeah.
And in LA, I'm able to like pause that and I don't have to use this as much.
I love that.
So that to me is the difference.
I love that.
But if you're in New York City and you have an ADHD thing, I would recommend an anchor or whatever they call these. Like it's just, it could be whatever you want it to
Whatever you want it to be.
be. But it's
That makes
something I
me
carry in
think
my
of
pocket.
do you know the movie Inception?
Yeah, it's like the
When
little
the little
spinny
thing. Well, wait, now that we're in Inception, do you think it was fake or real?
What?
Remember in the end, it keeps spinning?
I think all this is a simulation, but that's another conversation.
Part 2, because I can't
Yeah.
wait to get into that.
Yeah.
Coño, you can't
Oh,
throw that at
I
me
have a
at
lot
the
of
end of the
theories,
segment.
But I think we're all in a simulation. I think none of this is, I think all of this is just imagination. And we get to, I really believe that we get to invent the avatars that we want to be in this life. So have fun with
talk
it.
about this later.
Have fun with it.
Please. At Cuerno. We need to talk about this at Cuerno with the tacos. Oh my God. Okay, what's one piece of chisme about the casting process that would make artists feel less anxious during their next big intermission?
Oh my gosh. The chisme is that the chisme is that there's just a lot of personalities in the room, right? Like a creative team, particularly for like a Broadway production, has a ton of staff on it, like on the creative side, making decisions. Not only that, but also producers, right?
Oh.
And so there's a lot of personalities and all of them have different opinions because they're artists and they're creatives, right? And that's literally our jobs. But I think that your relationship to a casting director bias is the most important. I really do believe that. And sure, like obviously like relationships with directors is vital and I'm not ever going to take that away. But a casting director is the one that's going to continue to call you in over a lifetime for project after project after project after project, sometimes multiple projects a year. And I think that in our industry, we're starting just now to see the importance and vitality of this profession. And I'm not speaking again just because I'm like being biased. I'm seeing this from an overview, right? I'm like, we're finally getting recognition at the Oscar level, and we have the Emmy already, and and the Tony is next. And I hope to God it comes.
Yes.
Because to me, it's like we're curators, we're world builders, we're the ones imagining at the very first foundational level. Sometimes we get hired before a director does.
Oh.
Like that has happened, right? Like, and so it's like we come in and we're like, okay, great. These are our lists, our people we think are right for this role, right? What do you all think? And then there's a conversation. And then sometimes a director, a creative team could be like, I don't know a lot of these people. And that's when our jobs come in, because we're like, well, we do. And we think this person right here can be very special. And it's like, great, let's see them, right? And that's the cheese man, where it's like a casting director is actually such a vital relationship to an actor. And I really think that we should just get more love.
You get it from me. I love you. I love you all, casting directors.
And also, just a secret. This is an ASMR moment, real quick.
I'm scared.
Just because I got to whisper it as a secret. Can you hear me? Yes?
What?
Great. Okay. So when you have actors, anytime you get an award, thank your casting director. I guarantee you, every casting director is going to reshare that. And they're going to know who you are, because they're going to be like, oh my God, this person recognizes us and adore you. So whenever you get that moment, publicly thank your casting director. Public.
At the podium, when you're saying your speech, thank the casting director. Listen, that is... okay.
Is that chisme?
No, that's chisme. That's chisme.
It's a little secret.
No. Thank your casting directors. What's the most chaotic thing you've ever seen in the background of a self-tape? A cat,
oh my God.
like somebody cooking.
It's not even on a self-tape, girl. Sometimes one time an actor brought a machete to one of my auditions, and I had to call security.
Please tell me he wasn't Dominican.
No.
Thank God.
I was like, what are you doing? This is not, I feel unsafe. I'm like, what are you doing? I also had to have police or security called on an actor who wouldn't leave. And but that's rare. That's been rare.
Who wouldn't leave the room, or like the
wouldn't
building?
leave the room and wanted to come back in, and was
Aggressive
aggressive at the door, like very aggressive. So in person has been chaotic. In tapes, it's less chaotic, but there's been some choices. Some choices have been made, but I appreciate a choice. Sometimes it just takes it a little too far.
Coño, sí. Ay. Okay, and what's your favorite sandwichito? Oh yeah, we have to talk about this. What's your favorite kind of sandwich?
A banh mi. That was easy.
That was easy.
I think it just has all the right elements, right? It's got like the perfect umami. It's got like the crunch of the baguette. It's got like the spiciness of the jalapenos. It's got the little bitterness of the vinegar. The what is it called? What do you do when you pickle the onions or the carrots? It's got the protein. It's got the the spread. Like everything about a banh mi is just perfect for me.
That's literally what I'm gonna get for lunch today.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Victor, thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you
so
for
much
being
having me.
here. If you wouldn't mind helping us close out with our tagline. Because life doesn't pause. It just moves.
Let's do that again.
Okay, we have so many bloopers for everybody. No te preocupes. Because
life doesn't pause. It just moves.
Oh, now
it's right
we
there.
have text.
Ready? Let's go.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Because life doesn't pause. It just moves. Entre Acts. Victor Vazquez, everybody. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Entre Acts is created, hosted, and executive produced by yours truly, Linedy Genao. Produced in partnership with Alan Seals and the Broadway Podcast Network. Carlos E. Hernandez of Ikigai Management and Media serves as our lead executive producer. Original music by Johan Beltre and Pedro F. Fortunato. And special thanks to WelcomeToTimesSquare.com, the billboard where you can be a star for the day. Don't forget to subscribe and follow Entre Acts so you never miss an episode. Nos vemos!